If you're still here right now, then this moment is not random because something inside you decided to stop and listen. And that alone is a sign that you are more aware than you think, because most people keep scrolling, keep moving, keep distracting themselves from the thoughts they don't want to face. But you paused, and that pause matters more than you realize, because in that stillness, something deeper begins to speak. Something that doesn't come from noise, something that doesn't come from outside, but something that has been within you all along, waiting for you to slow down enough to hear it. And maybe right now, your life doesn't feel fully clear. Maybe you're in a phase where things don't make complete sense, where you are trying your best to move forward, but the results are not matching your expectations. And in those moments, it's easy to think that something is wrong, that something is missing, or that you are somehow behind. But what if that thinking is what's holding you back from seeing what is actually happening? Because not everything in life is supposed to be understood immediately. And not every answer is given at the moment you ask the question. Sometimes life works in a way where you have to walk forward without seeing the full path, trusting that each step you take is guiding you towards something that will eventually make sense. There were moments in your past where you thought you needed certain things to happen in order to feel complete. Moments where you believed that if one specific thing worked out, then everything would fall into place. But when that didn't happen the way you expected, it may have felt like a setback. But now, as time has passed, you can probably see that some of those moments protected you. Some of those moments redirected you. And some of those moments were actually necessary for you to become the person you are right now, even if you didn't understand it at the time. Because growth often hides itself in experiences that don't look like growth at first. And that's where most people miss the lesson. But you didn't stop. You kept going. And that persistence is what has brought you to this point. And now, as you continue to move forward, there are subtle changes happening within you. Changes that are not always visible on the outside, but are powerful on the inside. Because your mindset is shifting, your awareness is expanding, and your ability to see beyond surface-level situations is becoming stronger. And that means you are no longer reacting to life in the same way you used to. You are starting to observe, to think, and to understand in a deeper way. And that kind of awareness doesn't come by accident. It comes from experience, from reflection, and from the moments where you chose to keep going, even when things didn't feel easy. And maybe you have noticed that certain things that used to matter to you don't feel as important anymore, or that certain people, places, or situations no longer resonate with you the same way they once did. And instead of seeing that as a loss, understand that it is a sign of growth, because as you evolve, your standards change, your energy changes, and your alignment changes. And when that happens, your life begins to shift in ways that reflect who you are becoming, not who you used to be. And this is where many people get confused, because they try to hold on to things that no longer match their direction. But holding on to something that has already served its purpose can slow down your progress, while letting go, even when it's difficult, creates space for something better to enter your life, something that aligns more closely with your path. And even if you don't fully understand what is coming next, even if you don't see the full picture yet, trust that the process is still working, trust that your journey is still unfolding, and trust that every step you are taking is leading you closer to something meaningful, something intentional, something that is designed for you in a way that fits your growth, your timing, and your readiness. And as you continue moving forward, there is a deeper level of understanding beginning to form within you, something that cannot be explained in a single moment, but is built gradually over time, through experiences, through challenges, and through the quiet moments where you are left alone with your thoughts, because it is in those moments that clarity often begins to surface. Not as a loud answer, but as a subtle realization that starts to change the way you see everything around you. And that shift, even if it feels small at first, is actually one of the most powerful transformations you can experience. Because once your perception changes, your entire reality begins to respond differently. You may start to notice that your reactions are no longer the same as they used to be, that certain situations don't affect you the way they once did, and that you are beginning to respond with more patience, more awareness, and more control over your thoughts and emotions. And that is not something that happens overnight. That is something that develops through everything you have already been through, every moment where you chose to stay instead of giving up. every moment where you chose to think instead of react, and every moment where you chose to grow instead of remain the same. And as this transformation continues, you might find that your priorities begin to shift, that things which once felt extremely important no longer hold the same weight, and that new things are beginning to take their place. Things that are more aligned with your long-term growth, your purpose, and your future. And this shift is not random. It is part of a process that is guiding you into a more aligned version of your life, one where you are not constantly chasing everything around you, but instead allowing the right things to come to you at the right time. And one of the most important things to understand during this phase is that not every opportunity is meant for you, not every door is meant to open, and not every path is meant to be taken, because sometimes what looks like an opportunity on the surface may not actually align with where you are going. And if you were to force yourself into something that is not aligned, it could take you further away from what is truly meant for you, which is why awareness becomes so important. Because when you are aware, you are able to recognize what is right for you and what is not, even if it is not immediately obvious. And this awareness is something that continues to grow as you begin to trust your inner guidance more, that quiet voice inside you that often speaks in subtle ways, guiding you, warning you, or encouraging you, even when the world around you may be loud or distracting. And the more you listen to that voice, the stronger it becomes and the clearer your direction becomes. And that clarity begins to reflect in your decisions, in your actions, and in the way you move through life. You might also start to notice that certain things no longer distract you the way they used to, that your focus is becoming stronger, and that your ability to stay consistent is improving. And that is because something within you is becoming more disciplined, more centered, and more intentional. And that discipline is what will carry you forward into the next level of your journey. Because without discipline, even the best opportunities can be lost. But with discipline, even small steps can lead to massive results over time. And as you continue to grow, you may not always see immediate results, and that can sometimes create doubt. But instead of letting doubt take control, remember that progress is not always visible. Sometimes it is happening in ways that cannot be measured immediately, but that doesn't mean it is not happening. It simply means that it is still in progress, still unfolding, still developing into something greater. And your responsibility is to stay consistent, to stay focused, and to continue moving forward even when the results are not yet visible. Because that consistency is what separates those who succeed from those who give up too early. And one day, when you look back at this phase of your life, you will see that this was the moment where everything started to change, where your mindset began to shift, where your awareness began to expand, and where your life started moving in a direction that finally aligned with who you were always meant to become. And as this journey continues, there comes a point where you begin to realize that the people, the situations, and even the opportunities that once felt essential to your life are no longer holding the same importance. And that realization is not something to fear. It is something to understand, because it means you are growing beyond the version of yourself that once depended on those things, and you are now stepping into a level where your sense of fulfillment is no longer tied to external validation, but instead comes from within. From the progress you are making, from the awareness you are gaining, and from the quiet confidence that is beginning to build inside you. And this kind of internal strength is something that cannot be taken away by circumstances, because it is not based on what happens around you, but on what is happening within you. And that makes it far more powerful than anything external, because when your strength comes from within, you are no longer easily shaken by temporary situations. You are no longer easily distracted by things that don't matter. And you are no longer easily discouraged by outcomes that don't go as planned, because you begin to understand that every outcome is part of a bigger process that you may not fully see yet, but are already a part of. And as you move through this process, there will be moments where you feel tested, moments where things may not go as expected, and moments where you are challenged to stay committed even when it would be easier to give up. And those moments are not meant to break you. They are meant to strengthen your foundation, to reveal your resilience, and to show you just how much you are capable of handling when you choose not to give in to temporary discomfort. Because growth is not always comfortable, and progress is not always visible, but both are always happening when you continue to move forward with intention. And even when you don't feel motivated, even when you don't feel like everything is perfectly aligned, there is still value in showing up, in taking that next step, and in continuing the process. Because consistency creates momentum, and momentum creates change, and change leads to transformation, even if it happens slowly over time. And as this transformation continues, you may begin to see that your mindset is no longer limited by the same thoughts that once held you back, that your vision is expanding, and that your understanding of life is becoming deeper and more meaningful. And this expansion is not random. It is a reflection of everything you have experienced, everything you have learned, and everything you have overcome. Because nothing in your journey has been wasted. Every experience has contributed to where you are now, and every step has played a role in shaping the direction you are heading toward. So instead of questioning the process, start recognizing the growth. Instead of focusing on what is missing, start acknowledging what is being built. And instead of doubting the timing, start trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Because when the timing is right, everything that is meant for you will come into alignment in a way that feels natural, in a way that feels right, and in a way that confirms that all the waiting, all the learning, and all the growing was necessary to prepare you for that moment. And as you reach this point in your journey, take a moment to reflect not on what you don't have, but on how far you've already come. Because sometimes the mind focuses too much on what is missing, on what hasn't happened yet, and on what still feels out of reach. But when you shift your focus and begin to recognize your own progress, even the smallest progress, something changes within you because you start to see that your journey is not empty. It is full of growth, full of lessons, and full of moments that have shaped you into someone stronger than before. And that recognition alone can change the way you carry yourself, the way you think, and the way you approach your future. Because confidence doesn't come from having everything figured out. It comes from understanding that even without all the answers, you are still capable of moving forward, still capable of learning, and still capable of becoming more than you were yesterday. And as you continue forward, remember that the path ahead of you is not defined by your past alone. It is shaped by the choices you make today. And every small decision you make with awareness, with intention, and with purpose is contributing to the direction of your life in ways that may not be visible immediately, but will become clear over time. So, instead of rushing, instead of forcing, and instead of trying to control every outcome, allow yourself to move with trust, to grow with patience, and to understand that your journey is unfolding in a way that is unique to you. A way that is designed not to match anyone else's, but to bring out the best version of who you are meant to become. And when you truly begin to accept that, you stop comparing, you stop doubting, and you start living with a sense of clarity that allows you to move forward with confidence, knowing that you are exactly where you need to be, and that everything you are experiencing right now is leading you towards something meaningful, something purposeful, and something that will eventually make perfect sense when the time is right. And as you reach this deeper point in your journey, something begins to shift within you in a way that is not loud, not dramatic, but quietly powerful. Because you start to see your life differently, not through the lens of frustration or confusion, but through a lens of understanding. And that understanding allows you to accept that not everything needs to be rushed, not everything needs to be forced, and not everything needs to be figured out all at once, because life is not a race. It is a process. And every part of that process is playing a role in shaping who you are becoming, even the parts that felt unclear, even the parts that felt uncomfortable, and even the parts that made you question yourself more than once. And the more you begin to accept this, the more you realize that your journey is not something that is happening to you, but something that is happening for you, because every challenge you faced has added strength to your character. Every setback has added depth to your understanding, and every moment of uncertainty has added patience and resilience that you can now carry forward into your future. And that is something not everyone develops, but you did through everything you have experienced up until this point. And now, as you move forward, there is a quiet confidence building within you, a confidence that doesn't rely on immediate results, a confidence that doesn't depend on external validation, but a confidence that comes from knowing that you are growing, that you are evolving, and that you are becoming more aligned with the path that is meant for you. even if you cannot see the full picture yet. Because clarity doesn't always come before action. Sometimes it comes after, sometimes it comes through experience, and sometimes it comes when you least expect it. But when it does come, it brings a level of understanding that changes everything, because suddenly, all the moments that didn't make sense begin to connect. And all the delays, all the detours, and all the unexpected turns begin to reveal their purpose in a way that confirms that nothing was ever wasted. And as you continue forward with this awareness, you start to move differently, think differently, and act differently because you are no longer operating from a place of doubt, but from a place of trust. And that trust allows you to stay consistent, even when things are uncertain, to stay focused, even when distractions appear, and to stay grounded, even when the path ahead feels unclear. Because you understand that your journey is not defined by what happens in the moment, but by the direction you continue to choose over time. So as you stand here, in this phase of your life, take a deep breath and recognize that everything you have been through has prepared you for this exact moment, and everything you are experiencing now is preparing you for what comes next, because your story is still unfolding, your growth is still happening, and your path is still being shaped into something meaningful, something intentional, and something that is uniquely yours. And when you finally reach the point where everything begins to align, where everything begins to make sense, and where everything begins to fall into place, you will look back and realize that every step, every delay, every challenge, and every moment of uncertainty was necessary to bring you to that point. Because without those experiences, you would not have become the person capable of receiving what is meant for you. And now, as you arrive at the final part of this journey, it is important to understand that this is not the end of your story, but simply the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where everything you have learned, everything you have endured, and everything you have overcome begins to work together in ways you never expected. Because growth is not always visible in the moment, but it becomes undeniable when you look back and see how far you've come, how much you've changed, and how much stronger you have become without even realizing it at first. And this is where something powerful happens within you, because you begin to trust not only the process of life, but also yourself, your instincts, your decisions, and your ability to move forward even when the path isn't perfectly clear. And that trust becomes your foundation, the thing that keeps you steady when everything around you feels uncertain, the thing that keeps you moving when others might stop, and the thing that reminds you that you are capable of more than you have given yourself credit for. And in this moment, take a second to recognize that everything you once thought was a setback was actually a setup for something greater, because every delay protected you, every closed door redirected you, and every unexpected turn guided you toward a path that was always meant for you, even if you couldn't see it at the time. And now, as clarity begins to form, you start to see that your journey has never been random. It has always been intentional. And every piece of your life, no matter how small or insignificant it may have seemed, has been playing a role in building the strength, the wisdom, and the character you carry today. So as you step into what comes next, do it with confidence, do it with faith, and do it with the understanding that you are not walking alone, because every step you take is part of something greater than yourself, something that is guiding you, shaping you, and leading you toward the purpose that has been set for your life. And when challenges come again, as they inevitably will, remember this moment. Remember how far you've come. And remember that you have already overcome so much, which means you are more than capable of overcoming whatever comes next. Because the same strength that carried you here is the same strength that will carry you forward. And in the end, When everything settles and the pieces finally align, you will look back and realize that nothing was wasted, nothing was sluchai, and nothing was out of place. Because every moment, every struggle, and every victory was leading you to become exactly who you are meant to be. And that realization will bring you peace, confidence, and a deeper understanding that your story has always been guided, always been protected, and always been filled with purpose from the very beginning.